going to ask you guys to clear your desk off. Can I get 2 volunteers with a handout? Some papers. Come on up, come on up. All right, make sure everyone gets one of each. Thank you. And I know over the past month or so, we've been talking about all the things going on. We've been talking about all the things going on in meteorology. And we talked about the different weather systems, how weather can travel from one place to another, how different areas can have different weather than another area. All right, so today we're going to be talking about weather, but over the long term. Okay, so we have a new word for that. We're going to be learning some new vocabulary today. So let's get started. You're going to be following along, learning what those papers are all for. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the factors that affect climate. Okay, so you guys have probably heard the word climate before. In your own words, what do you think climate means?
It's hot outside.
It's hot outside. Just right now?
I think so.
Okay, it's definitely hot outside today, right?
They talk about climate change. I don't know what that means though.
They do. We hear the word climate change a lot, right?
Something about the weather.
Okay, something about the
You
weather.
said climate. The climate.
So here's my question.
I know what, yeah, but I know what change means. I don't know what
different.
climate change means.
It's different. Change means it's different today.
Here's my question. And that's excellent. You had excellent ideas there. What's the difference then between weather and climate? There's got to be a difference, right?
Climate is seasonal, like by season.
Okay, based on season, so you're saying it's more long-term,
Yes.
right? Whereas weather can change on a daily basis. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, we looked at the weather today, you said it was hot,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But the weather last week, we almost had a tropical storm here. Okay, so weather can change on a daily basis. How about climate? Is climate going to change here in New York a whole lot?
Well, I mean, we did have that polar freeze thing.
Okay, the polar vortex kind of threw things off this year.
So I mean,
Okay, but for the most part, our summers are going to get like
we had
to 90
everything.
degrees. Okay, our winter is going to get to like a little bit below freezing. So our climate doesn't really change year to year. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. And to start it off, we really need to know what climate is. So I think we did a pretty good job describing the difference between climate and weather. Weather is kind of a short-term thing. It can change on a day-to-day basis. But climate is going to describe how that weather is going to be over a long period of time. Okay, everyone good so far?
Yeah.
Questions, concerns? Good.
How long is a long period of time?
Well, let's say more than 30 years. Okay, we're seeing that
Are you older than, are you 30 years old?
I am not.
Oh, yeah.
So
it is.
I have not changed. So I have not seen the climate change over my lifetime. Okay, but we are seeing the climate change over the course of the past 100 years, definitely. Right? The climate has changed. We've seen the climate change all over the world over the past 100 years, and that's where the whole global warming thing gets into the conversation. All right, but here I have 3 photographs. All right, they're all located in different areas of the world. Okay, but you can clearly see they all definitely have different climates. All right, so I'm going to start off with this picture here. Okay, how would you describe that area?
Hot.
Okay, you said it was hot.
Dry.
Definitely dry. 2 very important ways to describe climate. Okay, you can describe the temperature. You can describe how much moisture there is in the air. Okay, so this area is clearly hot and dry. How can you tell it's dry?
Looks dusty.
Sand.
It looks dusty.
It's dusty. What is there not a lot
No
of?
trees.
Water.
No plant life.
No plant life. What do plants need to survive?
Water.
Water. If there's no plants here, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of water available. Okay, so yes, exactly. That is a desert area. All right, so
isn't it cold in the desert?
it can be.
At night.
Well, we can definitely get into that. All right, but to describe this area, this is a desert area. How do we describe a desert area? We said it was,
Cold and dry. Hot and dry.
for the most part, this desert is dry.
She's talking about my mom. She did.
Very different climate.
It looks
How would you
like-
describe the second picture, the one up in the top
It
right?
looks
Cold.
cold.
Okay, it's cold. What's our clue? We definitely have a clue that it's
No.
cold.
Ice.
It looks like somewhere
Ice.
you would go skiing.
Okay, so it's
Not
definitely cold
me,
because there's
but
ice.
someone else.
What
Mister,
else
have you
is
ever
there?
been skiing?
All the time.
Really?
Oh,
Where do you go?
Mountains.
Vermont. Vermont's cool.
Is that far?
Very far.
Killington Peaks.
What is this one? You know all
Okay.
about the desert, you know.
We definitely know that it's cold. Do we know if there's a lot of moisture?
It's wet.
Yeah.
It's water.
Okay, there's water there for sure. Okay,
It's
what
cold and wet. just
what
like
kind
your
of
clothes.
precipitation? Okay, I'm gonna ask you to come over here. Get a nice seat right next to me. Okay. We see that it's definitely cold, but it doesn't have a whole lot of rain. What is it going to have instead?
Snow.
Snow. Why?
Because it's cold.
Because it's cold. Okay, so there's a lot of things that go into a climate that are going to control what the temperature is going to be and how much precipitation and the type of precipitation is going to be. Yes.
What about the mountain?
Well, what about the mountains? We're definitely going to get to that. I'm gonna call on you in like 3 more slides. You're going to explain to me what's going on with the mountains. Okay. All right. So let's get to our last picture here. How would you describe that area? What is that area?
Beautiful,
Beautiful, humid. What do we call an area like that?
relaxing, vacation.
Rainforest.
Rainforest.
Okay, I'm good with rainforest. That's definitely a tropical rainforest. What do tropical rainforests have a lot of?
Animals.
Life plants.
Bananas.
Big trees and big bugs.
All right. Well, for
Birds.
starters,
Bananas
for
and orange
starters,
juice like Tropicana.
how do we use our hands? Okay.
Birds.
There's a lot of birds, there's a lot of life. Okay? But if we're describing the climate of a tropical rainforest,
It's hot.
it's definitely hot. Why do you say it's hot?
Tropical.
Ah, tropical. We know the word tropical means that it's going to be hot. What else is it going to be like?
Humid.
Rainy.
My hair's not gonna survive.
It's not
It
gonna
looks like my
survive.
hair won't survive that rain.
Okay, why? Why do you think it's going to be humid?
It's the waterfall and it's
Okay.
hot and there's water and it's hot together. My hair just doesn't work.
Well, what did we call it? What did we call this area? A
Humid.
tropical
Rain.
rainforest.
Oh, it has lots
Right.
of
It
rain.
has a lot of rain.
Oh.
Okay, so there's going to be a lot of rain in this area. It's going to be very hot. All right, so there's definitely something that's controlling what the climate's going to be like in these areas. Okay, same thing goes here. All right, you can go all the way up to the North Pole, where this is where the picture was taken. You can go to Point Lookout on Long Island, or you could go to farmlands in the middle of the United States. Okay, the climates are different in any area that you look at. Okay, so there's got to be an explanation for why the climates are so different everywhere else in the world. So what affects climate? What's going to affect how hot or how much rain an area gets?
Global warming.
Okay, global warming might have an influence on it, absolutely. We're going to talk about that for like a whole day. Okay, but I heard a word. I heard a word somewhere.
Latitude.
The equator?
I heard a word somewhere.
The equator?
The equator. What about the equator?
Places that are closer to the equator will be hotter.
Okay. All right, so we talked about that in the whole unit of meteorology, how areas closer to the equator are going to be hotter. Remember why? Well, let's take a look.
It's very hot there.
Next slide. Let's see. On my website here, we can look at the
You have
sun's...
lots to do.
It's a science teacher thing. On the website here, we can see how the direct incoming solar radiation can change throughout the year. And there's one area in particular that gets pretty direct radiation all year round. And it happens to be pretty close to where that man's standing,
What man? What man?
up here. I'm gonna move him
Oh,
around.
you're
a little
looking
bit.
at that picture?
Yeah.
I was looking at that.
You can look at all three if you'd like. Okay, but this guy is standing at a location on Earth known as the equator. All right, so I can make the year go on here, and we can see that the radiation that he receives doesn't really change all that much. It remains pretty direct all throughout the year. Whereas if I go to the North Pole, look at the angle the radiation's coming in at.
Oh, we learned about the North Pole in Mr. Rizzo's class.
Okay, so the angle of insulation is
First time,
much.
first time.
The angle of insulation is much lower towards the poles, which is going to do what to the temperature?
It's gonna be hot.
At the poles?
Cold or.
Oh, cold.
Yeah, you
That's
need
where
like
polar
a
bears
ski
live.
jacket. That's where polar
polar
bears
bears live.
live. Exactly.
Polaris. I was absent. Northern.
Okay, so latitude is something that definitely impacts climate. Okay. So you guys all have a sheet that looks like this, and I have it on the board. Okay, it's a imaginary island that's somewhere out in the ocean.
It's like Madagascar.
Yeah, you can consider Madagascar, that's fine.
Okay.
Madagascar wasn't this big, but watch. All right. And what we're going to do here is we're going to explain all the different climate conditions all over this imaginary island because they love to ask questions like this on the regions that you guys are all going to
Always
take.
the regions. It's all where we're doing the regions, the regions, the regions.
No, that's gonna be fun. Okay. So we already said that latitude is going to impact climate. Okay. So what latitude is going to have the hottest climate? What?
0.
0 degrees, the
Zero.
equator. Okay. And if we were to look at the vegetation all over the world, we see a lot of vegetation at the equator. But as you get closer to the poles, there's a lot of ice up there. And so we're clearly seeing that the temperature is changing just by the type of vegetation that is found in different areas of the world. And you can see the same thing for the southern hemisphere. You can go down to Antarctica, where there are only a few people living there. And you can see there's a lot of ice down there. So you can see that the temperature is definitely changing just by looking at Google Earth. All right, here's a little diagram showing the annual mean temperature. Okay, yes, the temperature is mean, especially by the equator because it's way too hot. Okay, as you get closer to the poles, temperature gets much lower. Okay, so latitude. Latitude is our biggest control of climate. Okay, so we already said the equator is going to be warm. So this is where I want you to start writing. I want you to write down that it is warm at the equator. 8.
Where's
It is warm at the equator. So I labeled warm up there for you guys. You should put it in the same spot.
I wrote equator too.
That's
I don't
fine,
know.
that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so if it's warm at the equator, where's it going to be cold?
And on the equator.
At the poles. So I labeled cold up at 90 degrees north, and I'm also going to put cold down at 90 degrees south.
Where do penguins live?
South pole.
Is that anti-Polaris?
Is there an anti-Polaris? Good question.
The Southern Cross. It's the Southern Cross.
Okay, so latitude. Latitude definitely controls this stuff. We got warm temperatures at the equator, cold temperatures up by the poles. Any questions so far? Yes.
How come Iceland is green and Greenland is ice?
I heard that.
They just love to confuse people.
No, that's true. It's true. Why are you laughing? It's true. I heard that before.
Sounds like a homework assignment.
I got your back. Oh, wow.
Alright, so that was our first step. But here's my problem.
Is green and ice.
I look at all 3 of these pictures here, and they're all found pretty close to the equator with the exception of this guy.
What?
Okay, so this one's pretty close to the equator, yet it has snow and ice in that picture. Okay, so something's going on here that allows ice to form even though it's near the equator.
Ah.
What do we think?
Okay, so my grandparents live in Pittsburgh,
Okay.
and my mom always makes us take warmer clothes with us when we go because she says it's in the mountains. And which I don't really, like when we're packing, I mean, I don't really get that. But when I get there, I'm always happy that I have my layers of stuff because it is actually colder.
Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe that had something to do with it because it was on a mountain.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Okay, you look at any tall mountain, odds are it's probably going to have ice at the top of it. Okay, and that's because the temperatures are much colder as you go higher up in elevation.
That's why sometimes they die when they go up to the top of the mountains because it gets so cold.
Yeah, if you know about people that have climbed Mount Everest, a lot of them just freeze to death before they even make it to the top because it gets so cold at the top of these mountains. Okay, so elevation can impact temperature. Okay, so we have two mountain chains here on this map. Okay, what's the climate going to be like up in those mountains?
Cold.
It's cold. Okay, so I'm going to label them. Okay, they're cold. So you guys should do the same. Let's label those mountains as cold. Yes?
Is it always cold at the top of the mountain?
It's always going to be colder than at the bottom of the mountain. Good question. Okay, so that is why when you go skiing, it's colder at the top of the mountain than it is at the bottom. It's because as you go higher up in elevation, temperature's going to get colder.
It's not colder when I.
Okay, so we're going to look at a pretty interesting area in particular. Has anyone ever been to California?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich.
Well, where you been?
All over.
All over. Have you ever been to the Sierra Nevadas?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone ever hear of the Sierra Nevadas?
Probably Lana.
Yeah.
Lana's pretty good.
Okay. The Sierra Nevadas. The Sierra Nevadas have the tallest peak, meaning the tallest mountain in the United States.
Really?
I thought the top.
Okay, so this is the Sierra Nevada. I want you to make some observations about the area around the Sierra Nevada. Okay, so this is a mountain chain that is in California. And as we go across here, we can see that,
Mister, you're going too fast.
I know, it gets you dizzy when you're up close.
That's why you put it there.
Okay? But I want you to make one big observation.
It's desert around the mountains.
Okay, it's desert where?
That's where they put the bodies, man. You know, the mountain.
On the east side.
I'm going to tell you what I see, and I think I'm going to go along with Will here.
On the east side of the east.
On the east side of these mountains.
What bodies? I don't know.
Where the mountain put the bodies.
What about the east side?
Yeah.
Where is
They put bodies on the east side.
The east side of what?
Okay, here are the Sierra Nevada mountains.
On the east side.
Here are the Sierra Nevada mountains. And I'm seeing, and I think Will saw too, that
Is that
on,
ocean?
on this side of the mountain, we have a lot of brown area, which means that there's a lot of desert. Right? What do we see on this side of the mountain?
Is that ocean?
That is ocean. A lot of green. So what must that mean?
Because they can grow pot in California.
They can do that among other places in the world, yes. But what do they have over here
It's green.
that they don't have over there?
Sunlight.
Water.
Clearly it's
So what do we think?
This is
water,
our
sunlight, sunlight.
Well, they're both going to get the same amount of sunlight because they're both
Maybe
the
the
same
mountains
The
latitude.
water! They have water on the side. They have the ocean on the
Okay,
side.
so there's something to do with the water.
But it's salt.
There's
I thought
something
maybe it was
to
hot.
The
But
mountains
it's
of
salt
water.
water.
With the water.
It's humider. It's humider.
You're not a word.
Okay, so there's definitely more water here. How do you know there's more water there?
Because it's blue.
And how about here?
And it's green.
And it's green, and what do plants need?
Water.
Water.
What are these clouds?
They're not getting salt water, they're just getting fresh water from the rain that falls.
So then what about, you said they're in the same area, how come the rain's not falling over there?
Ooh, I know.
Now I think we have an excellent question here. Why is there no rain here yet there is rainfall here.
Because I think
Because he said that the Sierra, what was it?
Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada mountains had the highest peaks, and the clouds can't go over the mountains.
I think I saw the gym teacher drinking.
No, I actually like that idea, okay? It might not be exactly that, but that's a good idea. Okay, I like that.
Right?
Yeah, that's almost spot on.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see why you're right.
I didn't hear it.
Well, I'm going to show you. Okay, so we look here in particular. What do we see at the top of these mountains?
Snow.
Snow. So we're definitely seeing that elevation plays a factor. So you guys have another sheet,
No.
okay?
Yes.
It says factors affecting climate. We're going to make sure we get all these down so that we know the factors that affect climate. So the first one we said was latitude.
Should we write this in the middle of the box or on the top?
Yeah, in the middle of the box. Just take up that whole
The
space.
whole, okay. Just clarifying.
Okay, the second one we said was, as we see here,
Snow.
snow where?
On the top.
At the top.
On
So
the peak.
elevation can control it. Well, now we're going to learn a third way.
5 minutes.
Okay, so this is going to get pretty interesting. So we're going to fly over this area. All right, and what do you notice here? What's the color on this side?
Brown and green.
Brown.
Okay, it's got some brown, it's got some green in it. And we're going to fly over these mountains. And you're going to notice something that happens to the color. All right, so obviously it's getting colder because we're getting ice up here. But as we go over these mountains and get to the other side, all of a sudden, goodbye green,
It's brown.
it's brown again.
They're on Tatooine.
Oh.
Exactly.
It's a valley.
It is also a valley, okay? So we're seeing that
Smarty pants.
there's no rainfall on this side of the mountain, whereas there must be rainfall on the other side of the mountain. So why? Why do we have no rainfall here, but a lot of rainfall over here? Okay, so in order to figure this out, we're going to need to know what happens in this area.
Can you just tell us?
I think it might be
I
your
don't think
hunch.
he's gonna
It's the
do that.
adiabatic process due to orographic lifting.
You belong in like AP super physics. Okay? But if we look at the direction the wind flows in that area, okay, I'm going to tell you it's in this area here. So what direction is the wind blowing in that area?
Up.
Towards what direction?
Wait, what area?
Towards
In
the
the
end of the
highlighted area.
You're going
Up south.
Toward
they're
the tropo
northeast.
something.
It's going towards the northeast. So if we apply that information to this area, okay, we can tell what direction the wind comes from. Where's it coming from?
The ocean.
The ocean.
The ocean, which is going to make that area pretty wet. Okay, it's going to have a lot of moisture in that air. All right, and eventually it's going to reach that mountain. And I'll let you know the process that goes on here. As the air travels up the mountain with moisture in it, what happens to the temperature of the air?
Gets colder.
It gets colder, we've established that, right? As it gets colder, we're getting closer to what you guys learned earlier. We're getting closer to the dew point temperature, the temperature that condensation is going to occur. When condensation occurs, we're going to get
Clouds.
Rain.
Rain.
clouds and then eventually rain. So all that moisture is falling out of the air here, and as the air travels back over, what is there not a lot of anymore?
Rain.
Rain.
Shadow.
Rain, how about
Cloud.
water in general?
Cloud.
Right? All that water fell out here. It is no longer in the air here.
It's
So what-
drier.
So I was
over there.
right.
It's going to be drier here, exactly. So the mountain took all the water out on one side and left the other side to be completely dry. Okay, so that is known as an adiabatic heating and cooling process. You're going to learn a little bit about that in the next couple days. But this is the same thing going on. So I took a profile of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and you can see the elevation rises up, and that's where we see a lot of the vegetation. Okay, so the green stuff happens to be where it's going to rain a lot. Okay, so we can label these areas because we know the wind directions all over. Okay, so you guys can draw in the wind directions if you'd like.
Oh, it's an imagine.
This is we're back to the imaginary, an actual vegetable.
Some go up and some go down.
You just did that, stupid.
So explain
There's something
it
going on
fine,
there,
yes.
Because
Wow,
They California.
wow. Might have to hang this in the fridge.
there's mountains. On the other side of the mountains, things happen different.
Okay, so we know the wind directions because we know the direction planetary winds go on Earth. So we can figure out what areas are going to be moist and what areas are going to be dry. All right, so the first one I want to focus on is this area right here, this mountain chain. What side of that mountain chain is going to have moist conditions?
What do you mean, what side?
What side of this mountain chain here, the east side or the west side, is going to have moist conditions? Meaning it's going to
Create
rain.
equator
The east
30.
side is going to be raining.
Why do you say that the east side is going to be raining?
I don't know, because it's warmer over there.
Okay, where's this air coming from though? Look at the wind direction.
Your mom.
It's like a combination.
Well, I'm going to say that the wind's coming from the east mostly.
Oh, I
Okay.
realized I was.
So the wind's going in this direction here. What's going to happen?
The warm air's going, right? Because it's warm right there.
All right, the warm air is going to hit those mountains. It's going to rise up. It's going to make it rain. So this area here, what do you expect to happen?
So I was wrong. I'm stupid.
It's going to be a lot of rain, which means it's, what's the word?
Tropical.
How about moist?
Moist.
Right? It's
Oh,
going to be moist
okay.
there. Oh, well, I'm doing the wrong one. That's okay. Whereas the other side is going to be dry. So label that. Label that in.
Do it.
All right. Last thing here. Anyone ever been to England, London?
It's
The
longer.
airport.
To the airport, just the airport?
Yeah, really.
Never left?
No.
Okay. Anyone know what it's like in England?
Food sucks.
It's
Cold and rainy.
it's where Sherlock Holmes lives.
It is.
Lots of fog.
The Beatles.
And lots of fruit.
Okay, well, I know that England has a lot of rain. It's cloudy a lot of the time.
That's what they're supposed to say.
Okay, it's also a lot warmer than it should be because if I looked at another location that has the same latitude in the middle of Canada, it's much different. What's Canada like?
Cold.
Cold.
Freezing.
Snowy.
Okay, it's freezing. All right, so there's definitely something that's controlling that. And I looked at the temperatures year-round between London and Canada. I see that Canada's winters get really cold, negative 20 degrees Celsius, whereas London's, they barely get below freezing. Okay, so there's something going on there, and we learned that the ocean currents have a lot to do with that. Okay, so that's a warm ocean current bringing up warm conditions to London, whereas this area of Canada is not surrounded by any ocean at all, and it's going to get a big change in temperature year-round. Okay. You can say the same thing about the United States. Long Island is near a warm ocean current, so our climate's going to be affected compared to an area like Des Moines, Iowa, which is in the middle of the country and it's not really affected by all that stuff. Okay. So what I would do at this point is I would tell my students to figure out the climate of different areas. So I put points on there. Okay, and then they'd have to fill out this area would be hot and dry or warm and moist, depending on where it is on the map. And then that would lead into the homework assignment, which would be a series of Regents questions that they'd hopefully be able to answer, and if not, they'd be going over the next day.
Nice job.